This conference will now be recorded.
Awesome. All right, 6 o'clock. We will call the zoning board meeting for Tuesday, July 18th to order. We only have one case on the docket here to start with, and it's zoning board case 23-13. I don't want to butcher your names, I apologize. Joseph Coffey, Fred Sina. Awesome. So how we usually do it is you guys read your application into the record, kind of explain what you guys have going on, then we open it up to public comment. Zoning board asks some questions. After that, we'll close the public comment, deliberate as a board, and go from there. All right. If you just need to speak into a mic and.
I have one here. Joe, do you have a copy of the application? I have. He has some additional information here, I guess. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
So I'm Joseph Coffey, and I'm a potential buyer for this property. And this is Fred Sina here. He's the current owner of the property. So what our wishes are for the property is we would like to get relief on the number of units allowed in this village district. We're hoping to get 4 units. The proposed building plans and type of building is on there. And as well, if you flip through, we also were planning on moving the building back in accordance with the setbacks, because I don't believe the current single family house meets setbacks. So granting the variance would not be contrary to the public interest because.
Joe, can you just, for clarification, so you're planning on taking the house down, is that correct?
Yes,
And rebuilding, this isn't a renovation.
Yes, I've
Okay.
saved my kind of a little bit of background is I've saved a lot of dilapidated properties, and in my opinion, this house is definitely past the point of being saved. So granting the variance would not be contrary to the public interest because it would yield a similar number of units as nearly the 20 attached non-conforming properties that have a similar amount of units, if not more. If the variance were granted, the experience of the ordinance would be observed because the land size we have is appropriate for the space, and to add additional parking while avoiding congestion there and keeping plenty of space between the surrounding properties. Granting the variance would do substantial justice because it would provide necessary housing, coupled with removing the potentially dangerous current house that is also an eyesore to the neighborhood. If the variance were granted, the value of the surrounding properties would not be diminished because the current structure, if anything, diminishes the value of the surrounding properties. So it would do nothing but increase the value of the surrounding properties. No fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public purposes, the ordinance provision, and the specific application of that provision to be to the property because the majority of the surrounding properties are multifamilies and numerous have many more units. Some of them have many more units. The proposed use is reasonable. One, because several non-conforming neighbors have similar number of units that we are proposing, as well as the correct amount of land is available to change the use. Explain how, if the criteria in subparagraph A are not established, an unnecessary hardship will be deemed to exist if and only if, owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, the property cannot be reasonably used in strict conformance with the ordinance, and a variance is therefore necessary to enable reasonable use of it. The financial cost of the project, given the site work of this property, if we were to move any proposed building on this lot back to where it would be considered conforming, there's a considerable amount of site work there that would be costly, as well as construction costs just on top of that. I believe that's it.
Have any questions at the moment?
No, yeah, no, go ahead.
Go ahead.
So you currently, right now, do not own this particular property.
That is correct.
So you're seeking a variance on property that you hope to own or that you propose to buy?
Fred is actually the applicant of this property. We're working together on it.
We'll just ask some questions first, and then we'll go over that way. Okay, I just have a couple quick questions just so that I can understand better here. What's the abutting property on this tax map? Is that Buffalo Park on the, I guess what would be the? Should be Buffalo Park. It's Buffalo Park on the backside, okay. No, this isn't Buffalo Park here?
It's Vicky Hussman.
Vicky Hussman's, okay. What address is that? Does anyone know? 6. Okay, so this big chunk here, this is a Winter Street piece of property that is carving out.
64. And then it goes,
Okay,
that's her,
So her access is through the 64 feet?
that's correct.
if it's easy, I just was curious what the rest of it was like.
64 feet.
Yeah,
Here, it's probably 10 foot wide.
So you wouldn't be using the same footprint as is already there, correct?
No, we would not be using the same footprint.
Is this going to be owner occupied?
It would not be owner occupied.
You mentioned some costs associated with rebuilding what exists and making it conforming. What are?
So the site costs, just based off of the layout of the lot, the way that it sits, there would be a considerable amount of site cost, and plus creating the additional parking for it, as well as making the building conforming with setbacks, because the whole property would need to be moved back to be conforming.
I can elaborate into those costs if you like.
Yeah, just curious what the project is. That sort of.
Yeah, to bring the property back to be conforming with the lines, we had I had contacted a couple site work companies. We were looking in the close of $120,000 to $140,000 just to be able to get the site buildable in that back area back there, between the moving of the boulders, dirt work, pavement, and foundation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Under this one here where the proposed use is reasonable, and because it says several non-conforming neighbors have a similar number of units. But I look on the list over here, none of those neighbors are on Maple Court they're in the area, but Maple Court, there's no.
They're within the VR district.
Okay.
And within the VR district, I don't believe at this time and point that there has ever been a variance granted after the ordinance went into place banning multifamily buildings. You've listed all kinds, but I don't believe any of those have ever been granted a variance since that ordinance was put into place by the taxpayers and residents of this town. And when you look at the actual definition of a variance itself, in the VR district, it does specifically state that it's an area that's already highly developed and that they wanted to restrict future development. And that was the whole purpose behind the VR when it was put into place.
What year was it? What year was that put into place?
I don't have that exact information, but under the current ordinance, it is now prohibited to have multifamily buildings.
In that 19-unit condo building, what year did that come into play?
Which one?
The 19-unit condo building? I believe
I don't have that information.
16.
4 Deer Street.
4 Deer Street.
I mean, yeah, we can, that's for us to pick
Okay,
out
okay,
and
okay,
discuss.
sorry,
You guys don't
sorry.
have to worry about,
We're still discussing, are we? One of my issues is the sewer line that is deeded, it goes through the other lots, it doesn't go, it's old. I know we have a letter stating that it's of proper size for a 4-unit.
let me read that into the record for the
Okay.
sake of clarity here.
Yep.
So we got a letter from Joanna Ames. Hi, Leanne. It's my understanding the property at 11 Maple Court is applying for a variance to upgrade a 4-unit apartment building. This property is currently hooked up to the Tilton Sewer Commission Municipal Systems main line on Cedar Street by a shared line that serves 11 Maple, 7 and 9 Maple Court, which is a duplex. Although the line is old, it is adequately sized to handle a 4-unit apartment. It is not known to be in failure or any need of repair at this time, to the best of my knowledge. The shared line runs directly underneath the property of 7 and 9 Maple Court with a reference in their deed. Tilton Sewer, Joanna Ames.
So the shared line, it's not owned by the town. It's, who maintains it?
I'm not sure.
Leon, do you know who maintains that line, the shared line that's deeded, that goes across the people's properties, that's in their deed, an easement? Yeah, if it were to
Is it
have
a private line or is it a?
I believe it's a private
Okay.
line. I'm negotiations with a lawyer right now against.
Okay. So there's some gray area over what it is considered.
Also, if you.
Hold on, Pat, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
He needs a microphone.
We haven't
yet.
quite
We
yet,
haven't
but
gone to the public yet.
We'll get into that. Thank you for the clarification on the sewer.
Just want you to know.
Yeah, if you have more clarification on the sewer part,
Oh, she's
Okay,
on the
oh.
sewer commission.
we'll go one at a time here. If we're just focusing on the sewer thing right now, do you have context for that for us?
Do.
Okay.
If you demolish and rebuild, you have to rebuild according to today's codes. And because of today's codes, it is not, you cannot tie into a non-conforming neighbor's pipe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have something you'd like to add?
You pass
need
her
the
the,
mic.
yeah.
So the line may be of adequate size, but the pipes that are in there have been in there for over 100 years. So there's probably some plastic where it may have been fixed by the property owners, not the sewer commission. And I'm sure there's clay pipe in there and there may be even the fiber pipe.
Awesome. Thank you. My takeaway from that letter is that the status of it is questionable. At best.
Questionable.
Yeah, for sure. Just, yeah, absolutely.
So I have a question as to where the location of the pipe is. Because it doesn't really say. It says that it goes underneath the property of 7 and 9 Maple Court. I would think that that means that it goes underneath a dwelling.
I can tell you that.
It does.
I can name.
I don't.
Picture if you'd like.
Okay, so it does.
Yes.
I don't believe that's current code either.
It goes. Under the driveway,
Under my cellar up to 11 Maple Court. And I do have a picture, a recent picture of the sewer commissioner's line. And you can see on here if I pass it to the chair.
Thank you. I'm just going to, for point of clarification for myself, we kind of got a little bit digressed. I'm not interested in discussing this any further until we talk to them about like, hey, this can't happen unless this whole sewer line gets redone, basically, is kind of my stance. I don't know where you guys feel about that. So all of his context is great, but I almost wonder if I'm hoping we're discussing something that we're all on the same page on moving forward. Quiet down there, Chuck. I don't know how you feel. Everybody's on board that if, even to even discuss this at all any further, we'd have to make sure that the applicants are on board with redoing that sewer line and tying it in correctly down Maple Court.
I.
They
I
cannot
can see
use
that.
this old unknown line that runs under another building. I mean, that's
Right.
out of the question.
So you could make that a condition of approval, is what you're saying, Matt?
Yeah.
Correct.
I agree.
We're all on board with that?
On board.
So for clarification, to save everybody's time here, that's definitely going to be a condition here moving forward. And whether or not we get to the point of approval, is that something you guys are open to, or is that out of your?
We're open to doing whatever is deemed reasonable.
Okay.
Yep. I mean, we're not looking to be unreasonable by any means. And I don't know if I can direct a question towards Pat.
Yeah, you're gonna do it through the.
Sure. What is Pat looking to achieve by through her attorney? What is she hoping will be done with the sewer line?
Is what you're does it apply to this here? It doesn't really. Okay, I can't answer that.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay, I just want to make sure that we're being respectful of everybody's time, and if you guys aren't on board with bringing the sewer up to snuff, we can.
Bringing up the stuff could be a new sewer line going up Maple Court.
Right. That would be an additional hardship. Right.
It would
For
be
sure.
Increased cost.
For sure.
Okay. Everybody's on board there so far.
I'm not sure it's a hardship, but I know it would be
What?
having to conform.
Yeah, it's not really.
It's not a hardship.
All right. Do you guys have any more questions?
No.
Okay. Any more public input?
Any?
First one.
Well, you're gonna need to.
Yeah,
we need.
Gotta
to- you
record
have
it.
We have to record it.
You have to say your name and.
It's for the minutes for later.
I got it. I'm good. Thank you. Deborah Shepherd, I'm in a butter at 29 Winter. We keep hearing the word hardship. To get past a variance, hardship has nothing to do with financial costs. That is not a grounds for a variance. So I just want to make sure that's clear. What it costs this gentleman to do has nothing to do with a variance or not. Okay, just wanted to make sure that was clear. I mean, to buy a $10,000 piece property for $10,000 and think that you have to put a 4-unit on so you can recoup your cost is ridiculous in that neighborhood on that tiny road. I mean, I'm pretty sure that zoning requires you have to have 100 feet of frontage on a road if you have town sewer, or 200 feet if you don't have town sewer. All he has is a width of the road, which is what, 20 feet maybe? So I just want you to take that into consideration too. I'm as an abutter, I'm opposed to this. I think that changes the whole neighborhood and it's not the use for that. If you want to take that house and remodel it and turn it into a single family again, rehab it, bring it back, more power to you. But 4-unit, it's ridiculous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you want to speak?
Thanks.
Pat Constantino and Kim Souls, 7-9 Maple Court. Obviously you folks have covered a lot, but a couple of other things that I had a problem with. Number one was the signer of the applicant is not the owner. I didn't know if that was an issue or not. I just wanted to make sure that that was clear.
Frederick Sina is the owner.
But he didn't sign it and he didn't pay for the applicant fee either.
I don't know. Sometimes we have construction companies do applications on behalf of people. So I mean, that's maybe a technicality that would have to be squared away.
Okay. He said the fact supporting would yield a similar number of units as the 20 attached non-conforming properties. And my question to the board is, how are the 20 attached units non-conforming? They were conforming when they were built. So how are they non-conforming now? He just picked out of the book 20 multifamily units in the district. They're all conforming at the time and date when they were built.
Sure. I don't think it's necessarily our purview to defend his case.
Right.
But
So
I think the point he was trying to drive was that there are many properties in the area that don't meet the current zoning ordinance, is what he was trying to say.
I also agree with Deb Shepherd about the hardship of financial costs of the project provides a hardship requiring the variance of financial release from 4 to 2 to 4. The contractor knew the price of the land before purchasing and knew the cost of removing the existing house and rebuilding. What is the financial hardship? Under Article 7, Appendix C, which is in the application, it indicates you need 100 feet of frontage. This house is at the end of the driveway, at the end of Maple Court, and has a limited green space. This is grossly under half of the frontage needed. And I have a picture here if you need to see it.
I think we're familiar with the lot.
Yeah, we
It's
have it.
okay. Thank you.
Okay,
Yep.
so
Thank you.
it's roughly about 37, give or take a few extra feet thrown in there, 37 feet from my point of my stake to the stone wall is 37 feet. So it's grossly under. So I don't have the size of the building going up. My question to the commission is, what is the size of the building going up? Is it more than 60% of 0.59 acres?
Well, if his proposed plan is 50 by 45, we're gonna make me do all kinds of conversion here.
Uh-huh.
Hold on. 50 by 45 is 2250. Let's call it 2,300 square feet for the sake of round numbers. And then how many 0.59 acres you said? Now I gotta go figure out how many square feet in an acre.
Is there any wetlands on that?
Well, let's just work with the one thing at a time here. What's that?
59.
0.59.
43, 50, 560.
So it is 25,000 square feet. So he's about 10% of it, right? My math's right there. So he would be
could put
under.
Something up to 25,000 feet.
Do you count the parking lot as impervious surface?
Depend on how he developed the parking lot. That would depend on how he
Yeah,
developed.
parking is part of impervious.
Well, I think Tilton has an ordinance that they're not supposed to use any wetland calculations.
That is part of the
So
property, yeah.
I don't know if there's any wetlands. I haven't walked this. I don't know if anyone in the area has a,
There were a couple of people talking at the same time. I didn't hear Leanne's comment.
I said the parking is considered part of the impervious, and I don't believe there are any wetlands on the property.
Well, aren't there, like, you can develop your parking that is impervious. We talked about that with lakesfront stuff, right? Or is that?
Right, they can put in impervious. I believe Pat's speaking to the percentage.
Do you count that in the 60%?
The
If it's
6%
impervious, correct.
Yes, they could put in, right, they could put in a pack and not make it, not tar, not.
Right. Depending on what kind of parking lot they will put in, would be counted in that impervious service.
Okay. And do we have a topography map showing the major elevation changes from Maple Court up to the house, existing house now? It's 8 to 9 feet and changes.
I do not have a topography map. It sounds like that's alluding to what he was talking about with his construction to make the house a conforming lot.
Okay.
And just as one more point, Pat, if this were to get passed with the condition that they had to have sewer and it was approved, they would still have to go to the planning board because this would be a multifamily unit and would have to go for planning board approval where they would vet the elevations and the impervious and, okay.
And last but not least, I am in contact with my lawyer. He did not have time to respond, and that's why Kim and I are here today. I would ask the board for a continuance so that he can formally and legally respond to this in writing. Thank you.
Hold on. Let me just address that first. I don't, this is out of my wheelhouse. I don't know whether we need their answer. I don't understand. I'm not clear on what her lawyer's answer would provide for us as a board.
Respond.
What's the specific question? And how does it pertain?
I'm asking you to continue.
And
Well, I understand. I'm just trying to figure out what the grounds for the continuation that you're asking for is. So it,
She was talking to me.
that's okay. It doesn't, to me, and correct me guys here if anyone understands this better than I do. It doesn't matter whether it's public or private in the eyes of the zoning board. If we approve this, you're going to have to make this meet the current code. Whether he's responsible for it after it's done, or the town's or the sewer commission's responsible out of it, doesn't matter to us. I don't know. Do you guys feel differently? As far as passing a zoning ordinance or a variance, he's going to have to bring it up to code and make it meet all the code requirements. So whether that's goes on the town after he's done it in the sewer commission, or whether that's a privately owned sewer line, I don't understand why it would matter.
Well, it says in your appendix, it says in Article 7, Appendix C, that you have to have 100 feet of frontage.
Does that pertain to whether it's public or private? Does that change?
No, it doesn't.
So who cares whether it's public or private or not? It doesn't meet the 100 feet of road frontage.
I don't understand why you keep bringing up public or private.
That's what your lawyer is trying to sort out.
No, that's a different subject, Matt. I'm talking about two different things.
I am very confused.
Right.
What is the lawyer's stance that you're trying to get an answer on?
That this should not go through, period, because there's a lot of different things reasons why it should not be approved. 100-foot frontage. We didn't get the information on the size of the home, topography, the water runoff alone. The Department of Public Works has to build special for us just for the runoff on the property now. Never mind if you have a parking lot up there.
That's the purpose of this board, is to decide whether or not there are things to pass. I don't think we need to wait for a lawyer's response. That's what we're here to. That's what we exist for.
And you haven't had time to talk to your lawyer about this case.
Correct.
You're talking to him about.
We just got the certified letter a week ago. He has not had time to respond to it.
We haven't even had time to talk as a board how we feel about this case. I'm not on board with continuing the case. I don't see what the purpose of the lawyer is. I think we should do what our jobs are here and finish the case. Everybody on board with that?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
Can I just share one?
Feel like we're gonna.
We haven't even talked about it.
We're not.
Yeah.
Talked about it, yeah.
Can I just share one other concern as an abutter? He talked about moving boulders. You're not going to move boulders on that lot. I live right across from him. We have big ledge croppings of ledges in the backyard. It's not boulders. It's deep. There's a big ledge through there. So it's not about moving boulders. There's ledge.
Okay.
There's a lot of ledge.
Thank you.
They would have to blast it.
Okay. Yes, Pat.
The entire back of the property is granite. It's also a wildlife corridor, not marked as a wildlife corridor by the state, but we often, every day, see wildlife in our backyard. Even today, we see them come down. So if you're moving boulders and doing things like that and building an apartment, that would hinder that.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment?
Did I bring up the water runoff?
Yeah, absolutely.
Question. So looking at the application, my question is, have they really shown a hardship for this property by naming other properties in town that are non-conforming? Is not a hardship to this property. I mean, there's non-conforming properties all over the town of Tilton, but that doesn't necessarily make another property that wants to be developed a hardship.
Thank you.
Just
Any more public input?
If you are tearing down an existing residence and building a new residence under the current ordinances, does it not have to be totally conforming with current ordinances?
Let me make sure that I get this. If you are not changing the footprint, if you're building based on what is existing.
You said they are changing the footprint.
Well, if you are not changing the footprint, you can rebuild what on that footprint that was existing. If you move from that footprint or change the footprint, then you have to meet the current codes. That is correct.
That was my question.
What's that?
You still, in a home and have to build it to today's
You have to build the building to today's codes, but you can build on a like you can leave it in the spot that is non-conforming. You don't have to move it to the conforming spot on the property. You have to build it on today's building
You have
codes.
to build it.
Yeah.
For sure, but as far as meeting the lot's requirements, you can build it right where it's at, even if it was 3 feet away from your neighbor's house. But you can't make it more non-conforming, correct? Okay, are we ready to deliberate amongst ourselves?
I do have another question as far as the width of on Maple Street.
Yeah.
Do they have to get a variance on that?
Well, it's an existing non-conforming lot. So again, it's a buildable lot. It's an existing non-conforming lot right now because of the road frontage.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at.
For a single
For
family,
a single
correct.
family.
I think you just hit on one of the things I was interested in was what are the number of units that are allowed on a shared driveway? Because this,
Well, it's
And I don't believe Tilton
think
allows
that's-
shared driveways anymore.
not a shared driveway.
It wouldn't be
no.
a shared driveway, it'd just be a
The Main
driveway
Street is
for
not a shared
one
driveway.
Main
building.
Street, it's a public, it's maintained by whom?
The town.
Town. Very good.
Any more public input? We're going to close public input until talk amongst ourselves, if everybody's on board with that. Everybody good?
Yep.
Cool. All right. I don't see the case for why it has to be a 4th family here, where I stand. I generally am on board with projects that fit the neighborhood when it doesn't necessarily conform. I don't really think that this fits the specific neighborhood. I think that, yes, I agree there are a lot of multifamily units in the village district, but I don't think that the specific neighborhood is a whole bunch of multifamily units. And so I'm kind of hard pressed. Financial hardship is not an actual hardship and a problem. And there's nothing about this property to me, and I'm open to all options, that makes it not able to be a two-family property.
I concur. I paired Maple Court and Poplar, which are in the local area, and they have no multifamilies in the immediate vicinity. And in the more general facility, I used Cedar, Winter Street, and I came up with 6 house lots out of a total in the area of 18, leading me to believe that it's not a majority of the being multifamilies.
Yeah, for more than 2. Always 2 families is multifamily to me, but it's not a technical.
And myself, I have a couple of issues as far as the sewer line. Yes, it may be adequate, but we don't know the condition of it. So that was one of my concerns. And the road frontage for a single family existing, because it's been there, is fine. But now to go to multi-unit, they don't meet the road frontage.
Sure.
So that's my concerns.
I feel that a 1 or 2 family dwelling would be fine to me, but I think once the code was put into place that did not want a multifamily up to 4 units, then I'm opposed to the project.
And also because I don't see there's a hardship in this case either. And I would say it would just be the 1 or 2 family that would have to go there.
All right. If do we need to go through all 5? If we're
Plus
probably
all the
just keep doing
sewage.
it, right?
Yes, you do. Please.
All right. So number 1, granting of the variance would not be contrary to the public interest, because I think that it is contrary to the public interest in this particular case. I don't think that the neighborhood is a multifamily apartment neighborhood, and that's usually a big thing for me, is how does it fit in the neighborhood. But that's my stance. You guys all agree, disagree?
Agree.
Number 2, if the variance were granted, the spirit of the ordinance would be observed. I don't think it meets the spirit of the ordinance here. The whole idea is not overdeveloping that area, and it's not an area full of multifamily units. Disagree?
Agree.
Number 4, if the variance were granted, the values of the surrounding properties would not be diminished. There's no evidence in the yay or nay of that, so we can move on from that. Number 5, unnecessary hardship. Owing to a special condition of the property that distinguishes from other properties in the area, a denial of variance would result in an unnecessary hardship. I don't see, like we spoke about, financial cost to develop it is not necessarily a hardship. So.
Correct.
I don't see it there. And B, explain how if the criteria in subparagraph A are not established, an unnecessary hardship would be deemed to exist if and only if, owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties of the area, property cannot be reasonably used in strict conformance with the ordinance, and a variance is therefore necessary to enable reasonable use of it. I think that it's possible to have reasonable use of this property with a 2-family unit. It may not return the
And,
profit
right,
as desired, but I think it can be reasonably used as such.
with the sewage and the water and all that. done.
Yeah, there's a lot of things
Right.
with this piece of property that
Correct.
make it not.
I don't know the length of Maple Court.
Down Maple Fort? Sure. I mean, that's not the only hang up. The big hang up for me, and I don't want to speak out of turn, I'm not the judge, jury, and executioner here. This is a group. It's not an apartment building neighborhood. My personal hang up.
Doesn't fit the neighborhood.
Doesn't fit the neighborhood.
And it's 250.
I mean, that's a little bit discretionary here, and I guess that's the point of this board. I don't really think Cedar Street's part of the neighborhood. Maple Court and Poplar Streets are kind of small, tucked off, quiet streets on the back. That's my personal feeling. All right, we have to
We always
vote here.
We make them in the affirmative, correct?
We make the motion in the affirmative, and then
Matt, did you do the last criteria?
yes,
If you did, I
5,
missed it.
A
You
and
did,
B.
okay.
So I'll make a motion to accept CB 23-13
Remove an existing.
to remove an, to remove an existing single-family home and to rebuild a 4-unit multifamily building where a multifamily is not allowed.
Any seconds for the motion?
I'll second it.
All right, made and seconded by Miranda. Jeez, I can't even think. And I apologize. All right, motion been made and seconded. Those in favor of passing ZB case 23-13, vote aye. Those opposed, vote nay. Nay. It does not pass.
Hey, Matt, could you now make a motion to deny and give the reasons so that we have them for the record?
Yes.
The criteria that it did not meet. Right, well, now just make a motion to say you deny for the following reasons and which criteria they didn't meet.
I make a motion that we denied the variance because it did not meet any of the criteria, any of the 5 criteria.
Second.
Made and seconded. Those in favor, vote aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right. Yeah.
No.
I don't
would
know
think
the
so.
answer to that. You may or may not be able to. I couldn't.
Do they need to come for a variance if they're going to build it?
Fred, that's not a question for this board right now.
Right.
If you want to bring a second plan forward, you would come to the land use office and we'd move forward with whatever you needed, okay?
Thank you for coming in.
Yep.
Good luck.
Yep. Good luck.
All right. We have got to
Well, I make a motion to accept the minutes for June
20th.
20th.
No, may I have one minor correction to those minutes?
sure. Right. Yes, that's why we vote on it.
Okay. Page 2,
Page 2.
unnecessary hardship. Section A, line 2,
Yeah.
properties are in the R, and I believe it should be area.
Properties in the area. Yes, it should be. Yes, I think you are correct.
Okay.
Should be
So
area. Yeah.
That would be the one correction to the motion that was made. It's,
To amend.
To
To amend.
the R to area 5A.
We amended them.
We amended the minutes. We're going to vote on the amendment to the minutes.
Yeah, it should be R to area
Yeah. So we have to make.
No, just say.
As amended.
as
Okay.
amended.
Didn't know if we had to make a new motion with the fixes. Okay. All right. So those in favor with the minutes as amended.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And the minutes pass. All right. Do we need to do anything formal for our new member? Yeah. Yes, welcome
Introduce us.
aboard.
What's your name?
Jim.
Brian.
Brian, how you doing?
Matt.
Matt?
Nice to meet you.
And Ian? You do?
Chuck. He's Chuck.
And Chuck, I know from somewhere. Thank you.
Yes, yeah. Does anyone else have anything that they'd like to bring up or add?
I'm making a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion's been made. Any seconds?
Second.
Go for it.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting